The Spiritual Journey of Alejandro Jodorowsky, Chapter 3, A Surrealist Master, Part 4. On the ground floor there was a rectangular courtyard full of flowering plants and trees that rose up to the second story. Katie watered them and at the same time photographed every flower, leaf, and insect. Suddenly, we heard her calling us with loud screams, thinking that some accident had befallen her. We all ran tumultuously down the stairs. Leonora, Cheeky, Gabby, Pablo, Jose, the dog, and me. Katie was standing there, safe and sound, photographing a chrysalis. Look, look, this is a divine moment. The caterpillar is dying and the butterfly is being born. The coffin of one is the cradle of the other. But at this moment, though the caterpillar has died, the butterfly is not yet born. So there is nothing. I'm photographing nothingness. As a fiery-colored insect arose to flutter among the flowers, Katie murmured, "Nothingness has densified, and a new illusion is born." Leonora added, "We too should open ourselves as the chrysalis opens to emerge completely new, our hair prickling like rays of light, unimaginably other." The portrait was completed on time. The disconcerting realism of Maria Felix's head floating like a deaf and blind planet in a threefold magical body. The world Leonora had painted vibrated with ecstasy. In it, the classic head, satisfied with its limits, seemed like a prison. I will give it to her today, this evening at 9 o'clock. I want to prepare a dinner for her and a few friends, and I'd like you to help me in the kitchen. Wearing a dress covered with tiny stars, and with me in the kitchen as the only onlooker, she commenced the preparations for the feast. In 5 chamber pots, brand new of course, she planned to serve 33 pounds of caviar, about 6 pounds in each pot. I was appalled at the fortune this must have cost. With a mischievous smile, Lenora revealed her trickery. In fact, she had drenched cooked tapioca grains with black squid's ink. Using this simple technique, she managed to obtain a delicious pseudo-caviar. Then she explained how the soup was to be made. With an unbroken stream of incantations spoken in the voice of a lion, I make my soup on wild rocks while looking at certain stars. The ingredients are simple: half a pink onion, a bit of perfumed wood, some grains of myrrh, a large branch of green mint, 3 belladonna pills covered with white Swiss chocolate, and a huge compass rose, which I plunge into the soup for 1 minute before removing it. Just before serving the soup, I add a Chinese cloud mushroom, which has a snail-like antenna and grows an owl dome. At 9 o'clock, the great lady arrived. Only male guests had been invited so that the actress would have no feeling of competition. They all stared at her tongue-tied. There were 4 painters, 2 writers, a film director, a banker, 3 important lawyers, and me, a theater director whom the others seemed to regard as a visitor from another planet. Cheeky, who detested this sort of event, had taken refuge with his children in the hornas in the red shadows of the photography lab. The resplendent painting, covered with a veil, was set on an easel in the middle of the room. In person, Maria Felix was far more impressive than on screen. Her luxurious jet-black hair, her fine features, her queenly bearing, her potent, castrating regard, her intoxicating Mexican beauty, her baroque jewelry, her splendid evening gown, and especially the imperious flash in her eyes were breathtaking. A palpable testosterone silence hung in the room like a pall. Leonora broke it by whipping away the veil from the canvas dramatically and tossing it into the air so that it flew like a bird over our heads and struck a window before falling out of sight. With a gasp of admiration, Senora Felix stood in front of the painting, her naked back towards us. Then she turned slowly around to face us, as if gazing upon her audience from a high throne. An invisible flame seemed to shoot out from her pupils as she looked at each of us fully in the eyes, one by one, with the clear intention of arousing us. Finally, her gaze strayed to the dog, Eldra. With great satisfaction, the Senora pronounced these sultry words, which slithered through the air like a snake. Even the dog desires me. When I heard this, I felt a ripping sensation deep inside me. I remembered the terrible words my mother, Sara Felicidad, had said to me when I was 7 years old, after giving me a black eye because he imagined I had flirted with a customer in the shop. Your father raped me and got me pregnant. I have hated him ever since, and I cannot love you. After you were born, I had my tubes tied. It is a cruel blow to know that your birth was not desired. This is why I had always lived with the feeling that nothing really belonged to me. In order for the world to belong to us, we must believe that the world desires us. Only that which desires us can be ours. By feeling that she was desired even by the dog, Maria Felix was a queen who possessed everything. From that moment on, I began to work on myself, to affirm the conviction that the world desires my existence. This world includes all of humanity, past, present, and future. My father and mother identified themselves with their acquired personalities, their families, and social and cultural influences. Their insane ideas, inherited from their parents and ancestors, gave rise to negative emotions, unhealthy desires, and false needs. They believed that they had not desired me, had not loved me. They saw me more as a tumor in my mother's stomach than an embryo. I was protected by the placenta from the attacks of antibodies that wanted to destroy me. The life that had been granted me was able to resist these assaults. Something mysterious, immense, and profound had already decided since the beginning of time that I would exist. Because they desired my presence in this world, all the forces of the universe cooperated so that I could be born. Thus, every living being represents a victory of cosmic desire. I had come to Leonora wanting to be loved, seeking the perfect mother, which arose from the same need as my infant cries and weeping in the cradle. I was demanding and needy, yet how could I give? For nothing was really mine. If the world did not desire me, how could I receive my love? I had only learned to desire myself, which split me in two or more. I escaped to the kitchen. The frivolous aspect of Leonora's world had become cloying to me. A few minutes later, she entered wearing a doe's head as a hat. Don't lie to me, Sebastian. I have heard the temple veil tearing. A force now inhabits you that is foreign to me. Please excuse me, but I must withdraw. I'm afraid you will let loose a bee in my secret spaces. I understood our relationship had an end. Without a word, without looking back, I walked down the stairs, out of the house and into the street. In those days, the skies of Mexico City was still clear, and the stars lit up the sky almost like a full moon. I was stopped in my tracks by a cry like the wailing of a bird being slain. It was Leonora. "Stop, Sebastian," she called, running to catch up with me, her clothes falling from her little by little as she approached me. Her body bathed in the starlight was silver, with a voice so soft it seemed to emerge from a beehive deeper than the earth. She spoke. "Before you go, I want you to know that your appearance has been absolutely essential for me. It goes beyond personal limits, beyond the celestial bodies that shine in the caverns of animal gods, beyond the murmurings of the praying mantis in my hair. It goes beyond that, and yet, perhaps, even more, it is still under the threat by the human body. I speak as one submerged in time. This umbilical cord exists only if we allow it to exist. You can always cut it, but as long as you want it, it will be there. For you, I am exactly what you desire, but never believe that you can lose me because my role changes relative to you. That could happen. I could also become your bearded, toothless grandmother, or your ghost, or even an undefined place. If I withdraw someday for human or non-human reasons, you should never fear to look for me, because you must know always that you will find me when you wish it. Later, we will communicate in such a perfect way that all our terrors and weaknesses will become bridges. Meanwhile, the ways remain warm and open. If by chance you ever sever ordinary communication for a period, I will be here each time you wish to find me, because the subterranean elements do not depend in the slightest on our personal will. Worried about her public nudity, I said, "Cover yourself, Lenora. Someone might come by." She bent double as if I had struck her in the stomach. "You do not yet understand," she groaned. "I am the moon." Cheeky arrived, carrying an astrakhan cloak. Without deigning to look at me, he covered her, lifted her delicately in his arms as if she were an amphora full of precious liquid, and bore her away. Dawn was breaking. Ijo Takata would be arising right now to prepare for his morning meditation. I took a bus full of school children with little toy bows. They shot small paper arrows at me. Suddenly an idea formed in my mind. I am like Saint Sebastian being shot through by Cohen's. Furious, I returned to the Zendo.